This is the humerus, and we're going to need some helper bones to learn the humerus because it's just really helpful. Learn the radius and the ulna before you learn the humerus, and then the humerus will be much easier. So here's the head of the humerus up here. This is the head of the humerus, and then we have these things that stick out. The top bump is the greater tubercle, and the lower bump is the lesser tubercle. And between those two bumps, we have the intertubercular sulcus, because the sulcus is a groove, and this is running between the two tubercles. So it's the intertubercular sulcus. And this is the place where the tendon to the long head of the biceps brachii muscle runs. So you probably remember that from the joint chapter. Now we have two necks to this bone. We have the surgical neck, that is this narrowing region right here, and then we have the anatomical neck. The anatomical neck would be this line that runs around. It's a very clear line that runs around the head of the humerus. And what the anatomical neck is where the fibrous joint capsule attaches from this humerus over around the glenohumeral joint. Okay, so we've got our head, greater, lesser tubercle, intertubercular sulcus, anatomical neck, surgical neck. Then we come down here and you see this is a real humerus. It's nice to learn on a real humerus instead of a fake humerus because you see this bulge midway down. Well, this is on the lateral aspect of the bone because you'd have a big deltoid muscle coming and attaching right here. So this is the deltoid tuberosity of the bone, because every time the deltoid pulls out on this bone, when it pulls your arm to abduct your arm, it makes the bone grow in this region. So that's a big roughened region called the deltoid tuberosity. And also in that region, you really have to feel this on a real bone. There's a groove that runs through here, and it's called the radial sulcus. It could also be called the radial groove, depending on what your book calls it. So I believe your textbook this year calls it the radial groove. And to be able to figure out where that is, you actually have to run your finger across it. And what that radial groove is an area where the radial nerve and the deep brachial artery run along this area of the humerus. So it cuts a groove right by that deltoid tuberosity. Okay, so that's pretty much that area of the bone from here down. So let's go to the bottom of the bone, and this is kind of what makes the bottom of the bone, or the distal end of the bone, is what makes the humerus a little difficult. But if you've already learned your ulna, you see your ulna with the U, and your radius, then it makes it a little easier. So, well, to tell the front of the humerus from the back of the humerus, you look for a big hole. This is the front of the humerus. This is the back of the humerus. See this big hole? This is your elbow hole. This is the olecranon fossa, because this is our ulna, and this is the olecranon. This fits in this olecranon fossa. This is your elbow right here. That's your elbow joint. And see, the olecranon of the ulna fits in this olecranon fossa. So you'll know if this is the back of the humerus if you can see this big hole. That's where the ulna articulates with the humerus. So this is the olecranon fossa. If we flip it over, while we have this ulna here, this is the olecranon, and this was the coronoid process of the ulna. If we take it like this and flip it over and see how this ulna will go like this and dip into this region, this hole that the ulna was articulating into, going into, this is the coronoid fossa of the humerus. The coronoid process of the ulna goes right into the coronoid fossa of the humerus. Now this is called the trochlear notch. This region right here is the trochlear notch of the ulna, and it articulates around a region of the humerus called the trochlea. So this is the trochlea of the humerus. So we had the olecranon fossa, the trochlea, and the coronoid fossa, and all of those names correspond to this region of the ulna. Now for the other part, the other distal region of the humerus, it goes with the radius. Here's the head of the radius, and it articulates like this, goes around this rounded region. Now this rounded region is shaped like a head. It's very, very round. So it's called the capitulum. And the head of the radius goes around the capitulum like this, and it goes right into this little indentation. Oops, sorry. This indentation here, and that's called the radial fossa of the humerus. So the radius goes into the radial fossa. This was the coronoid fossa, this is the radial fossa. This is the trochlea, this is the capitulum. And you really have to feel it. It's nice and round. See how rounded that is? Now the last regions on the humerus, the distal end that you have to know, would be the, let's get our bearings here, which is this is our deltoid tuberosity, so we know this is the outside of the bone. So this is our lateral, this is our lateral epicondyle, the outer side of the bone. So this is going to be our medial epicondyle, right here, the medial epicondyle. So our lateral epicondyle and our medial epicondyle. And I think I got everything on this bone. I'm pretty sure I did, and I did. Let's see. Have any questions? You should come into the lab and play with your humerus and the ulna and the radius at the same time. It will really help you to learn these bones.